Ever since the two of them had begun fooling around, Luo Binghe hadn't been able to pass a single day without becoming anguished at least several dozen times. When Shen Qingqiu spoke a couple of words to other people, he'd become anguished. When Shen Qingqiu took 2 fewer bites, he'd become anguished. When Shen Qingqiu complained that the bathtub was too small and kicked him out, he'd again become anguished. His anguish was like snacking on broad beans, showed up with a snap, then disappeared with another snap. But now that he was standing at the scene of his former crimes, Shen Qingqiu felt guilty and couldn't help but soften a little. His roast of, quote, crazy demon, unquote, dissipated before it could be posted. He quickly reached up and patted Luo Binghe's cheek. Don't be angry. Today Shizun will grant you one request. But let's deal with the evil spirit here first. Luo Binghe was delighted. Really? When has Shizun ever? Shen Qingqiu was about to continue, but he shortly shut his mouth to avoid tragically embarrassing himself. Whether he finished with, quote, lied to you or, quote, screwed you over, both would basically be slapping himself in the face. Since Shizun said so. Luo Binghe pulled out length after length of red rope. His face flushed. Hello, immortal binding cable. Goodbye, immortal binding cable! When Luo Binghe saw Shen Qingqiu's look of sheer disbelief, he didn't force it. He just sighed, staring up at the sky. For some reason, he said softly, ever since the day this disciple safely escaped from the Skinner demon, on many nights he experienced strange dreams. What do you mean by strange dreams? The kind of dream where you have to wash your underwear after waking up? Shen Qingqiu had sinned. It turned out that he had even been the pubescent Luo Binghe Sexual Awakening 101 instructor. A person's object of sexual epiphany was very important. Even if it wasn't a mega buxom older lady with all her flowing curves, it ought to at least be a slender, delicate younger girl with a demure personality. Luo Binghe's life was so unbelievably tragic that it was hard to sum up. The one who'd given him his sexual awakening had a goddamn hot dog. Shen Qingqiu wanted to bow to him while crying in sympathy. But no matter how sympathetic, Shen Qingqiu would not give in. Though Luo Binghe's endless pestering and wheedling had ground away most of his integrity, every little bit he could retrieve counted. Even more importantly, can we deal with official business first? There's a cloud of black fog gathering behind you. It's here! It's appeared! Luo Binghe acted as if he hadn't noticed a thing and continued giving voice to his anxieties. Even now, this disciple is at times tormented by this dream. If he'd said, quote, in days past, it might have been believable. But a Luo Binghe who had mastered controlling dream realms, being, quote, tormented by them, this lie was way too thick-faced and shameless, and said with all confidence at that. Shen Qingqiu put his hand on Qiuya's sword and lightly chuckled. So? Luo Binghe didn't even turn his head. So That black fog couldn't take it anymore. It snarled.
Are you both blind? Can't you see me?
This voice was very familiar, like that of a dear friend. Dear? Asked Shen Qingqiu.
Don't dear me or whore me, I'm me.
The black fog snapped.
I'm the Skinner demon who once struck fear in this city.
Shen Qingqiu was speechless. Was this really the insignificant monster that he'd killed with a slap during a beginner-level quest? So the rumored vengeful spirit had been this guy all along. In both life and death, they didn't forget to harass the residents of this manor. What a work ethic! The black fog forcefully spat out a mass of black smoke. Shen Qingqiu guessed that to them, this was the same as spitting out a mouthful of saliva.
You two adulterers dare come to fool around before me, completely unaware of your impending death,
they snapped. Luo Binghe furrowed his brow. Shizun, should we just kill them or capture them for later interrogation? Shen Qingqiu wanted to see just how stupid the black fog could get, so he raised his hand, signaling for Luo Binghe to stay still for now. The black fog made a questioning sound, then drifted closer to Shen Qingqiu.
You look a bit familiar.
Of course I look familiar. The culprit who murdered you is standing right before your eyes, and all you can do is doubtfully say, you look a bit familiar. How many years had passed? It had to have been at least 10. So under the powerful influence of easy mode, Deer's IQ hadn't increased in the slightest, and their memory had even declined quite a bit. Shen Qingqiu coughed once and reminded them. This Shen is a Qingjing Peak Lord. A silence, and then the black fog exploded.
Shen Qingqiu, so it was you. Then who is he?
You know him too, Shen Qingqiu said reluctantly. He was also at the scene that time. After the black fog thought for a long while, understanding suddenly dawned on them.
He's your little whelp of a disciple!
Now that Deer had finally remembered, they laughed madly without pause.
Shen Qingqiu! Good and evil both receive their due. Heaven enforces karma for all. To think you actually got by your own disciple? What an utter degenerate! Absolutely disgusting. I just knew that someone would come to exact heavenly justice.
Shen Qingqiu had no words. No. That's wrong. As a demon who's committed many evils and received its due retribution, which is to say dying in a single slap from someone exacting heavenly justice, a line like, quote, good and evil both receive their dues, heaven enforces karma for all, doesn't really suit you, does it? As the black fog laughed and laughed, something strange happened. It was as if a great wind blew by, scattering a mass of smoke, and the black fog gradually dissipated. Only a final black wisp remained, and it was still sighing in satisfaction.
Retribution, retribution, retribution. Shen Qingqiu, you finally met retribution. Serves you right. I can now die without regrets.
Bruh, had they become a Buddha? Ascended to heaven? Been exorcised? Their bar for dying without regrets was surely a little bit too low. And no matter how troublesome Luo Binghe was, it wasn't to the point that he could be called, quote, retribution. The yin energy within the courtyard suddenly vanished. Shizun, shall we continue? Asked Luo Binghe. Shen Qingqiu's lips twisted, and he looked at Luo Binghe, who was still clutching his handful of immortal binding cables. At a loss for words, he said, What do you want to continue? Didn't Shizun say that he would grant me one request today? So, my request is to ask if Shizun would deign to cooperate a little and allow this disciple to lightly tie him up with this immortal binding cable, then stay bound for a while so that a dream can come true and fulfill this disciple's years-long wish. Then this disciple can die without regrets. Shen Jingqiu stared at them. Though deer had already peacefully ascended to heaven via their own inexplicable sense of self-satisfaction, Shen Jingqiu felt like he couldn't return Xiuya to its sheath just yet. He expressionlessly headed outside. Luo Binghe ran in front of him, cutting him off. Shizun, you promised. Shen Jingqiu coldly pushed his hurt face out of the way. Shizun, how can you do this to me again? Luo Binghe said accusingly. What are you crying about? Even if you cry, it's no use. Don't embarrass us in front of outsiders. Sure enough, when it came to this little beast, tender feelings and sympathy were fully unnecessary. He took back his words. Luo Binghe really was karmic retribution.